What's up guys, James from SIKKY Manufacturing. We're going to pick up where we left off on the last episode. Obviously we got the drivetrain out of our donor Camaro here. So we're going to get on the preparations and the stuff we actually have to do to this engine before we can drop it in the FRS. So first step though, we got to get this Camaro out of the way. Now, as far as getting all the factory components off that we don't need, it's somewhat self-explanatory, so I might fast forward through some of that, time-lapse some of it, but we're gonna get all this factory stuff that's not getting reused out of the way and try to rip through this pretty quick. All right, so we're gonna focus real quick on this passenger side of the motor. We're gonna end up running different spark plug wires, so we're gonna get rid of these first. You gotta get this dipstick too, by the way, to get this manifold off. The SIKKY headers come with new hardware, so we're not going to be reusing this factory stuff, so you can keep it or throw it away. Whatever's easier for you. Same thing, the SIKKY headers come with new gaskets, so you don't need these. I'll start getting the harness undone from this side. Ta-da! All right, so now it's time to get this transmission off. This TR6060 actually comes with a trans cooler setup on the cars that comes in factory. So there's like a in and an out fitting, one on this side and one on the other side that runs up to the radiator and actually cools the transmission fluid. Having raced cars with a lot of Tremec transmissions, keeping that fluid cool really helps a lot. It's very important even running different types of fluids, like a high performance version of trans fluid works so much better. You'll notice like cleaner shifts, the synchros just are happier. So either way, we're gonna unhook these lines because we can't pull the trans without unhooking them since these lines are still hooked to the motor. We gotta get that part off once we get it up off the subframe, but we're gonna unhook these now from the engine and then we'll be able to move on to pulling this transmission off. These lines just have a little clip, so once you get that clip out, they just slide right out of the side of the transmission, like a quick disconnect. All right, now we're clear to start removing these bell housing bolts. Voila, there we go. So still got the original stock pressure plate, clutch and flywheel on here. We're gonna actually be upgrading to a GM Performance version for this build. So gotta get the flywheel and clutch off of here next. Oh, gonna need the big boy on that one. she is. Still in pretty good shape. This thing didn't have a lot of miles on it, so not surprising. There we go, stock flywheel. Again, nothing wrong with this one, but we're upgrading some stuff on this while we're at it, so we don't have to worry or touch this for quite some time. We gotta get in here and clean this up a little bit though before we do anything. Looks like the rear main's fine, don't need to do much. There's always gonna be a little bit of residual around here, but I mean, it's not even enough to make a drip, so I'm not gonna worry about doing anything with the rear main, and based on how low the mileage is, technically it shouldn't need one for probably 100,000 miles. Just a little tidbit of info for you guys that are watching this that don't know much about LS engines. These flywheel bolts actually go through the crankshaft and into the crankcase, so you can see there's actually some oil coming through the bolt holes on these two lower ones. That's why it's very important that when you put your new bolts on, you seal this up. So we'll typically do like a RTV. The factory bolts run a type of sealant that is like a Loctite, so we'll do that as well. Not sure what we're gonna do on this one yet, but either way, you wanna make sure you seal these threads up. Probably like a Loctite makes the most sense because you're killing two birds with one stone. You're locking the bolt in there, and you're also sealing the threads so nothing seeps out and gets out onto your clutch. All right, so now it's time to get this engine off of this subframe and these pallets so we can further break it down, but everything's kind of getting in the way at this point, so I'm gonna clear some extra room. There's about a million different ways you can pick an LS engine up, but if you've never done it before, you definitely want to crisscross from the front corner to back corner. Obviously, you want to try to keep things balanced and not bend or smash anything once the weight hits this chain. You typically use like the power steering bracket on the front. It's a big bolt up there. This big guy. Either way, both your pickup points are in the cylinder head. Plenty of beef there for just picking up the weight of the motor, so don't worry about it or overthink it. make sure the chain's free as it's starting to pick up some of the weight. You don't want, again, you don't want to smash anything. Connectors, stuff like that. So I'm just gonna, in this case, take a little weight off, and then it's not ideal because you can see it's pulling back, but I don't have much room with the legs on here. So now we're gonna bolt the motor mounts. Nothing like a little coolant shower to make the shop nice and clean. There we go. Engine is now separated from the subframe so we can get all this crap out of our way. Move on to stripping the rest of these parts off of our LS3. So we're gonna start clearing all this stuff off here, and probably grab an engine stand so we can mount it on an engine stand and then spin it around and get all the other parts added onto this before we're ready to take it off that engine stand so we can do the clutch and flywheel. But first things first, I'm gonna clear some of this stuff off in the meantime and then go grab the engine stand here and we'll move on. All right, got a couple small things to get off here if I want to get this thing on an engine stand. It's getting annoying with it swinging around. Get these lines out of the way. Bolt doesn't feel so good. When in doubt, don't run it in. That's how you screw shit up. Yeah, I don't know, that hole doesn't feel too good. Let's take a look at it here. Yeah, must have a little burr in there. Oh, I got a tap and run in there. There we go. Yeah, some little boogered up at the end of the hole there, but it's going in smooth now. That's one of those problems that if you don't fix it now, I've been a pain in the ass with this motor up in the car and trying to get the transmission bolted up, so glad I figured that one out now. I must have got messed up on the way out or something, but either way, good to go. All right, should be able to lower it now and let the stand support everything. All right, so we got this thing on the stand. It's gonna be a lot easier to move it around and work with it at this point. So this LS3 front drive setup would work totally awesome in the FRS, no issues. The way we designed the SIKKY mount kit for the FRS and BRZ, the engine's so far back that you can run just about any front drive combination you can think of. But in the process, or early on in this video, we started developing a front drive kit for other swaps where you don't have that much room. And this is a perfect opportunity to test those products out another time and do an install on this engine. So I'm gonna end up stripping this perfectly good front drive setup off for no reason other than just to shoot an install guide on this motor. But we're actually still machining a couple of those brackets at the moment. So I will probably have to stall a little bit and we're gonna move on to some other stuff on the car, but maybe by next episode we'll be putting those bright shiny billet parts back on this engine. Finish taking other components off of this motor and get this FRS back here on the lift and keep rolling. All right, so first order of business, I'm gonna try to get this oil cooler set up off the side of here without getting friggin' coolant all over the YouTube room, just because it's a pain in the ass cleaning that stuff up. So we're gonna rotate this carefully. So this is kind of pointed up and hopefully don't spill everything out. So get you guys a closer look. So since we're not running a oil cooler that runs on the actual coolant off the block, we're gonna end up plugging this with this fitting right here. So this is like a standard LS water jacket coolant fitting. I'm not really sure what you would call it. Apologize, I don't know the technical word for it, but either way, I know you can find these things just about everywhere. So we're gonna end up pulling this off and it's gonna get plugged permanently with this little plug. So problem is, this is bigger than 1.1 and back in the YouTube room, I just don't have a lot of tools back here like the regular shop side would. So we're gonna use the old universal persuader Harbor Freight special. In a pinch, you need to take apart a bridge or an LS motor. Works for both. So we're gonna crack this fitting loose here. Work it off. I'm not a big fan of adjustable wrenches, but in this case, that's all we got. It is better than a vice grip. Sorry, vice grip garage guy, but that's one area where I pretty much won't use a vice grip on a car unless somebody's holding a gun to my head, just because I've been followed behind too many botched repair jobs by other people that have used vice grips and just rounded everything off. At least with these adjustables, you can adjust them to the right size and they technically work very similar to a properly sized wrench. Hopefully this doesn't just dump out on me, but I'll have to get a drip pan if it's going to. Not sure how much of this drained out and moving it around. All right, no waterfall, that's good to see. Persuader wins again. Now for the rest of this. Helps if you grab the right socket. Drip pan again, just in case. Ooh, 10, not 11. Yum. An oily, coolant mix. right, get that mess out of the way. Might as well get these lines out of here. Starting to get clean. All right, so as you can see, this plug has some sealant on it, but I'm not a big fan of trusting that, so I'm gonna put a little bit of RTV out here just to give it a little extra insurance once I clean that hole up a little bit. Would not be fun to have a coolant leak out of this plug after everything's in the car. Never a good sign. Let's hope everything's not just totally dry in here. There we go. Extra large 17 mil Allen socket. All right, it's all sealed up, ready to move on to the other side and clean up whatever's left on there. All right, so time to get this AC compressor out of the way. And we don't need this motor mount. But we do need the big impact. All right, let's detension this belt. Whoops. About flipping the motor over. the alternator bracket. And lastly, power steering pump bracket. So again, since the front drive kit that we make is based off of Corvette CTSV spacing, unfortunately this water pump's not gonna work either, so I gotta get that out of the way. And the crank pulley. Might as well get this tensioner off too. All right, last but not least, the crank pulley, which you're gonna need a puller to get that off, but I'll show you how to do that real quick. All right, so we're at a great stopping point for this episode. We got everything stripped and prepped on this motor, so all we really got to do next time around is start putting all the new shiny parts on. Maybe a little bit of cleanup because we don't want to be putting a dirty engine in this car. And then we're going to get that FRS back on the lift here and start tearing into the remaining steps on that with a little bit of an extra project that got thrown our way. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the next one. So as always, please subscribe. Don't forget to click that bell so you don't miss the next episode. Catch you next time. Thanks.